Yeah, so yeah, basically I'm going to talk about, I'm calling it like sort of governance 2.0, and it's like the next iteration of what we have in terms of governance platforms today. So, oh yeah, before we start, scan my thing, right? Yes. Scan it. I'm second, I'm losing. I was first the whole day. Anyway. So yeah, what we're going to talk about is a little bit about me, a recap of my previous talk that I had in ECC that was talking about, similar topics. This is kind of an extension of it. It's still not a complete idea, but I hope that, we can have a discussion around these things. Kind of a discussion about like why is token voting bad, quote unquote, and, an example of, an enforceable tragedy of the commons that you have with token voting. You'll say that no attacks haven't happened and there's no problem, but I think there is. And then, I don't know, trying to go towards a solution with kind of like a perfectly balanced meme, right? And then, yeah, maybe a framework to how to upgrade your governance. So, yeah, about me, I used to live in China, and then I was using Bitcoin to buy stuff, and then someone sent me the article about the DAO hack, and that completely changed the course of my life essentially. And I've been involved in DAOs ever since. I joined DAOstack. I was advising them before, and then I joined them. And in DAOstack, I ran a project called DHack, which I don't know, some people might know here. It was kind of like a decentralized hackathon before COVID. And then yeah, I was in the formation of DXDAO, and I've been a member ever since. It's kind of like my passion, and most of my time today is in Collider Ventures, which is a venture fund out of Israel. So yeah, and I care a lot about governance. So, quick recap on the previous talk. I talked about like the ownership economy, right? The premise is that it's not just founders and investors taking home value; it's also users. Talked about like what makes DAOs work, and came up with this thing of like initiative. Anyone can come with an initiative to a DAO, and drive it, get funding for it, and do something. Kind of where we are right now with like bottom-up collaboration, like cross-community collaboration, and like critics that are welcome. Yeah, a meme is worth 1,000 explanations. This is kind of like how I explained the problem. And then talked about like reputation and a hybrid solution for voting power. So let's like continuing the recap. This is kind of like how proposals are being done in DAOs, and this is what drives them. Someone comes up with an idea to, I don't know, to list sushi or ex-sushi on Aave, or someone is saying that, we're breaking someone is giving like, some critical feedback on, what the DAO is doing. Yeah, because it's kind of like a meme of how I see where DAOs are today, right? Like we were talking about ownership economy, but we're sort of recreating the same capital economy around like token voting. And then yeah, like this whole thing, like I'm kind of against Snapshot, at least in its current form, voting in like, on a server and a multisig that holds billions of dollars. So who here is a part of a DAO? Everyone? What does it mean? What does it mean for you to be part of a DAO? You're building a DAO? Okay. And, okay. And is it already like there's a community around it and everything? Yeah?
Okay, so what we're actually focused now is we actually launched a token like two weeks ago, and it's like already before that there was like a huge product market fit, so we have like a strong community around, and now we are trying to funnel all of these like new guys who want to work with us in a way that we still like have our traction, and yeah, basically like set up the environment so everyone could actually do the part, and like the engagement is like a mutually beneficent in a way that the whole environment strives. So
yeah, so like the project will continue on forward. Yeah, incentivizing them long term.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to like spin up the sustainable flywheel. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. So I think most of the people here are like a part of DAO. So want to talk about the elephant in the room. which is token voting. Everybody's using token voting. It's the easiest way to do, right? You send a token, pull up a snapshot, everybody votes. It's really nice and easy. So why token voting bad, right? So a few things is, first of all, it's kind of, if you have a lot of tokens, that you are more incentivized to vote because you have more influence, and this could very easily, oh wow, I have a screen here. Yeah, amazing. Anyway, yeah, if you're a small holder, then maybe you're not really incentivized to vote, like voter apathy, like my vote is not going to matter, it's not going to be very effective. The interest of really one reputation, sort of like a stakeholder in the ecosystem is being highly represented in its capital, right? These tokens usually represents like future claim to revenue, and they are highly represented. And then sometimes we have like conflicts of interest, right? Like large token holders may have interests that not are aligned with the best interest of the DAO. And then, does anyone have any example, or do they know of something that happened that, just token voting going bad? Yeah? Flash node voting? Oh yeah, so you do a flash loan and you get a token and then you vote for something. Yeah, so I think a lot of governance systems are mitigating that. So yeah, what else? Oh, the DeFi Education Fund. So this was in my last talk. I didn't put this here, but this is a very good one. Like $20 million went to, like, not really sure who exactly. And they got, yeah, and they're supposed to, I don't know, represent the DeFi ecosystem. I'm going to look at like two, like very specific one. The first one is like Bond. I don't know if you know, but Bond, it's basically, Barnbridge. It was basically like a very community bootstrap project. It barely had any venture capital, like investments in it. And then they wanted to get added into Aave for collateral. So what happened is that, as you can see, like the community is totally in for it, right? Like 52 people voted in the forum. And what happened eventually is that the VCs of Saffron Finance, like the ones who are, the biggest competitor of Barnbridge, they voted against the proposal. And now, I mean, the VCs, they have a lot of power in Aave, right? But they obviously didn't vote for the best of the platform. They just, they voted for their own interest, that they wanted Saffron Finance on top of it, and not Barnbridge. And then another example. So this is a bit close to me because I've invested in hats, right? And they're a project that's close to me. So they first presented to Nexus Mutual. They wanted to collaborate with them, and then a proposal passed. The community was all in favor. There was a decent discussion in the forum. There was an AMA. And then once the second proposal came to like actually participate, one of the biggest token holders, a VC that consequently invested in the competition, voted against the proposal in like the last minute, like 30 minutes before it finished. So kind of like, what are we doing here? Like it's really not representative of the actual interest of the DAO and the best of the DAO. So another kind of like problem or something that we can touch on is what I call a cryptographically secure tragedy of the commons. And I mean, I didn't invent this, right? This is like Vitalik, but imagine a contract where you can deposit like the voting power token, and then basically everyone who deposits it, you can auction on a daily basis or a weekly basis the voting power. And then someone could buy this voting power just for a certain proposal or a certain vote. And yeah, like you get dividends basically for how much they paid. So this, this can actually create like enforced cartels in DAOs. And then you'll say, but sir, this has never happened, right? This doesn't happen. Well, I think it did. First of all, who remembers this? Like the Steam governance and Justin Sun? Who remembers it? Anyone wanna like briefly say what happened? Yeah?
So Justin Sun basically paid some exchanges that they had a majority of the validating power of the blockchain Steam, which was a delegated proof of stake chain, in order for them to vote, or actually it was not even voting, it was to do I think it was an invalid state transition where basically they emptied the tokens of the main oppositors of Justin Sun taking over Steam, basically.
Yeah. Right. So I think it was actually much worse. Like, so what happened is that Justin Sun bought like Steemit, which was the main front end, and they had a lot of tokens. And then he told CZ, right, hey, I'm going to do some upgrade to the governments. Let me vote with all the Steem tokens that are on Binance, right? And he did that, right? And then there was like this whole thing with Binance pausing withdrawals, so people couldn't withdraw their tokens and like vote by themselves. And he used essentially all this to make a governance change that excluded some people from the platform. And then Hive rose up. It's like a community that essentially was like, you know, fuck you, Justin Sun, and we're going to fork away. And it was fairly successful. So this is like a very interesting one. I don't know if this could be done with like a DeFi protocol because let's say, you know, someone does that with Maker. How do they fork? Like, where does the DAI go? What about all the ETH that is locked in the smart contract? It's like, these type of forks can't always happen. So kind of like, why hasn't this happened in DeFi? And like, I want to make this more engaging, but I don't have much time, so I'll go right to the answer. So we were promised ownership economy, but if you can see, this is like the compound governance, right? Look at this. It's held in the hands of very, very few, and it's not really decentralized. I don't think it's even intended to be decentralized. Yeah, so kind of like the goal of governance today is A, to claim sufficient decentralization, B, to kind of like, you know, allow exchange of what some agencies in the US call unregistered securities. And then more important is that most protocols or projects today, the person who's designing the DAO is the chief legal officer or, you know, the legal counsel. It's the person who's responsible, you know, for, you know, the legal stuff of the company. It's not about anything to do about, you know, giving actual power to the users. So this is kind of like a quote from Vitalik. Like, we need to make sure that because coin voting is very easy right now, we cannot allow this to be, you know, the only legitimate, you know, like governance system. Yeah, and then, yeah, he speaks about, you know, the problems that large portions of the supply stand in the hands of tightly coordinated clique of insiders, which is, that's the state right now. So, what can we do? As I like to explain with memes, right? So, how can we balance like sweat equity and capital equity? I'm not saying like, you know, kick token voting away completely because, you know, it has an important part, but how can we have like sweat equity as a part of it? How can we allow, you know, the people who are actually working or doing stuff for the DAO to have, you know, voting power? Yeah, so it's kind of like a governance structure that represents more than one constituent or more than one stakeholder. Oh, wait. Right, okay. So, and it's called like reputation-based voting, and reputation is non-transferable. It's a value that the DAO holds rather than, you know, you actually the individual. And yeah, like I'm gonna breeze through this. So what I'm saying, or like, you know, where I'm aiming at is to combine token and reputation voting for like a unified formula that, you know, combines sweat equity and capital equity. So, I'm gonna let you upgrade you. So, I'm thinking about like, you know, what is currently happening, right? In most of these, most of the projects they're using like pure token voting right now, and you know, there are ways, or at least I want to think of ways of how to allow them to upgrade to, you know, a more equitable governance, and then, you know, a simple kind of like balance, like a V1 or an MVP for this is, you know, voting power is composed of 50% reputation and then 50% token voting, you know, and it could be like, you know, either locked, unlocked, or a score as a part of future locked. And then reputation is gained by, working for the DAO, like people who are actually employees, who are working at the company, governance participation, off-chain participation, so, calls, source cred, POAPs, community appreciation and rating like Coordinate, and specific contributions. And then this is kind of like how you would bootstrap right now from a token-based voting DAO to a reputation-based voting DAO. And then like it's kind of fancy, but imagine you take a percentage of the rep is going to be given out to the community over the course of, let's say, 24 months, and then anyone can lock their tokens in order to generate rep in this, in this epochs, essentially. And then, yeah, the more you lock in and the longer you lock it for, then your higher your score is, and then it basically distributes it in an auction mechanism where it's descending. Like the last point is kind of, it's descending by 10% for every epoch. So every month, like 10% less of reputation is being distributed. And then, like a V2 of this could be like dynamic balance and like mutual requirements. So in order to participate in governance, you have to have both tokens and reputation. And what this creates is an incentive for those who have sweat equity to also earn tokens and be financially aligned with the DAO. And for those who have capital equity to actually participate and contribute tangible work for the DAO. Yes, and then like this is a bonus, holographic consensus, but I don't know if I have kind of like time for that. Yeah, maybe I'll briefly talk about this. So most of the governance systems today use quorum, but at the end of the day, most like 99% of proposals, they simply pass, right, in DAOs. And it's only those contentious, 1% that needs like more debate on. So this will allow you to essentially, like someone puts essentially their money where their mouth is with each proposal. And then if the proposal passes, they get their stake back plus some. If it doesn't pass, then, they lose their stake. And this is originally developed by DAOstack. Now DXDAO is pushing this forward, and I think this is going to be a very interesting governance system. And ideally, we would see more, more DAOs going down this route. And yeah, open discussion, questions, stuff.
Couple of questions.
Any questions, thoughts? Disagreements? Where am I wrong?
Yeah, so this is a very common problem that DAOs have right now, right? Like, and the balance between something like that, which sounds amazing on paper, and it definitely sounds like the thing that we should do, versus the ease of whipping out a snapshot page. When are we going to have frameworks that allow us to do that fairly easily without a massive overhead, 6 developers working on it for 3 months to adapt it to your community, connect bots here from Discord, source cred, Coordinate? Like I'm trying to manage all of this together, and I still have to do my job. What's the solution? What's coming?
Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously not an easy problem, and I mean we're at the very infancy of this entire thing, right? I hope that at least for the governance system, like the guys like us at DXDAO, we're really working on that and improving that governance system. Ideally, others will be able to also build on top of it or use it, deploy it themselves. Hopefully, like a no-code deployment, that would be like the most ideal, but it's pretty far away. And then I know there are a couple of projects out here that are working on, taking this Coordinate and source code and taking all of these things and packaging them into like a single thing that you can do. Hopefully this will happen, soonish. But yeah, I think like Agora Space, some of the guys are here, they're doing that. I think there are a couple of others, and yeah, ideally we're building horizontally. So yeah, you want to say something?
So like, where would you start? What's the lowest hanging fruit? We don't have it, that it's in progress. So now you have a DAO, and you want to implement like some reputation system. So like, what's the easiest way?
Come talk to me. Like, I'm happy to help. I'm like, in DXDAO, I'm pushing for this specifically, like bring on more DAOs that will use similar governance system. So yeah. Yeah.
How do you see the difference between organizations that already exist and try to decentralize into a DAO and DAOs that are starting off as DAOs?
Wait, how do I differentiate? Oh yeah, so what are the what is the difference between like a DAO that is already out there and wants to decentralize and a DAO that starts from this, like it's not a DAO yet and they want to start like that. So I think like starting decentralized, it's like almost impossible. Like starting like fully decentralized from day one. And I mean, if you need to launch something immediately, then go for it. Do the snapshot, do the multi-sig, do that. But have in mind, how do I actually decentralize it? Because it's a sandbox. It's fine for snapshot to be like a sandbox, but it's not long-term sustainable, and it's definitely not scalable. And it is especially, I guess, not like what do you call it? Like from like a legal perspective, that's definitely not going to protect you or the rest of the multi-sig holders. Yeah.
Thank you.